Welcome into Fox Weather at Night. We have a huge hurricane, a very powerful one, that is down in the Caribbean Sea right now. When I say huge, I mean it's going to be hugely impactful. It's actually not that large of a storm. It's a very compact storm. Category 4 Hurricane Melissa. It's less than 100 miles away from Jamaica, and it's pretty much certain that they're going to take a direct hit along the south coast from either a Category 4 or a Category 5 hurricane. I think it could be a Category 5 very easily. This thing exploded earlier on this morning. It went through a period of what we call rapid intensification. You hear that all the time. It's not terribly uncommon with tropical cyclones, but it technically means that within 24 hours, it gained 35 miles per hour of strength. It basically just means that it strengthened really fast. It went through a fast strengthening phase. And here we are. Look at this thing. My goodness, 145 mile per hour sustained wind. Keep in mind when you hear that number, that's just referring to the eye wall. So just a tiny little area in that storm where there's sustained wind close to 145 miles per hour. The wind field, of course, it expands pretty far out from the center, but those most extreme winds are just in the eye wall. And this is a very compact storm. Now, what's going to end up happening, I'll give you the long and short of this. I think that this has the potential to be a very major catastrophe in the country of Jamaica. The center of the storm is going to take a track from south to north across the island nation. That's pretty much set in stone now. The only question is, exactly where does it make landfall? And that actually does make a big difference in the forecast for a lot of people. But the point I'm trying to make is that picture how wide that eye is, okay? Remember, the extreme wind right around the eye. There's going to be a swath wherever it ends up going across, whether it's there, whether it's there, whether it's a little closer to Kingston. The forecast right now is a little farther toward the west. But there's going to be a swath as wide as the eye where it's just going to look like a buzzsaw across the entire nation. That's what you get with the Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane. This is not something you see every day. It is a very, very big deal. This is not a cry wolf situation. If you live in Jamaica, I know you've been through some tropical systems at points here or there. This is going to be close to Gilbert in 1988, and it actually has the potential to be worse in some ways. There's going to be extremely heavy rain, really bad storm surge, likely in Kingston. They're forecasting 13 feet of storm surge right now. To put that in perspective, the airport out there, which is on a barrier island, is 10 feet above sea level. So that would put the airport underwater. You know who's really good at explaining all these differences between impacts? Brian Norcross, our hurricane expert. He did it a little bit earlier on today. I think this is a fantastic segment. Listen in.
Where exactly this comes ashore is really critical because in terms of the population on Jamaica, obviously whoever gets the worst of it, it's horrible for them in terms of the wind. But the wind, as you'll see, is in a smaller area. But here is when it's pushing all the storm surge in. Now, in terms of the size of the storm, this is the Hurricane Center's estimate of how big it will be at landfall if it obviously comes ashore with the center right there. So here are the hurricane force sustained winds, and here are the hurricane force gusts, obviously coming into Kingston. But since we can't precisely do that, a wobble to the right of 50 miles puts so much more in Kingston. And in any case, it's putting the rain against the mountains this entire time.
Well, the sun is down now, but I wanted to show you the last few scans of the visible satellite before it went down because it is quite a spectacular thing to see meteorologically. Not every day you get a hurricane that looks like this in the Atlantic basin. Obviously, it's happened before, but my goodness, that is unbelievable. When you look at a close look at the center of it, you can really tell it's been going through an intense strengthening phase basically throughout the day. It did the rapid intensification between, I think it was 11 a.m. yesterday and 5 a.m. this morning. So it didn't even take all the 24 hours to get the 35 miles per hour increase in strength. But look at this. The thing that I really like about this visible satellite view that is fascinating meteorologically, look at these ripples that are just emanating from the center. So that's because we've got strengthening thunderstorms here at the core, and that's how things work in meteorology. You get convergence at the surface, upward rising motion, big thunderstorms, and then up top, way up high in the atmosphere, you see divergence. So it literally just looks like ripples, like if you threw a rock in a lake or something like that. Very fascinating. Unfortunately, it's going to be extremely devastating, I think, for a lot of people. Let's get into the forecast of this a little bit. The forecast cone, obviously a very important thing. Look at this, 160 miles per hour by tomorrow. That's compared to the 145 that it's at right now. Honestly, it's kind of like splitting hairs once you get to that kind of wind speed. Cat 4 or Cat 5 making a landfall is going to be devastating any way that you cut it. But it's moving west right now. It's going to make that turn toward the northeast. And keep in mind, with the forecast cone here, guys, I know I hammer this point down very often, but I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets it. The forecast cone is the area of uncertainty as far as where the center of the storm can go. A lot of people think that, okay, forecast cone means that the storm is going to be in the center and this whole thing is the area that's going to be affected by the storm. No. The storm could go like this. That's where the center of the storm could go, in which case you're going to have, the big impacts like that. So just a little distinction to make in case you weren't familiar with that. But 160 is Category 5. 157 is technically when it gets to Category 5. So, yeah, the Hurricane Center is forecasting somewhere between a Category 4 and a Category 5 at landfall. And just to give you an idea of how this is going to pan out. So, yeah, moving toward the west, and then it makes that sharp turn up toward the north and the northeast. The side of the storm is going to drop a huge amount of rain all over all of Jamaica. And I think the entire island, the entire nation, has a good chance at seeing some really bad flooding. But the side of the storm that you don't want to be on, especially, is the right side. We call it the right front quadrant. So, the storm is moving this way. If you break it up into 4, this would be the right front quadrant. And that's because it's spinning counterclockwise, and that's where you get the onshore wind that pushes the ocean up onto the land. And then if you live along the coast in low-lying areas, you literally just become part of the ocean. And that's all while you've got a violent hurricane going on top of that ocean that you have just become. That's why storm surge kills so many people, and it's generally regarded as the most dangerous part of a hurricane when they make landfall. But yes, it goes across Jamaica. It'll lose a little bit of strength. There is a lot of terrain in Jamaica. And anytime the center of one of these storms goes over a hilly area, it'll tend to lose a little bit of strength. But it doesn't lose all of its strength. It's still going to be a hurricane, and then eastern Cuba is in for it too. Heavy rain, a direct landfall there as well. Haiti, by the way, has been getting a tremendous amount of rain already from Melissa, and even before it was Melissa, and they're going to continue to see more rain too. So I think Haiti, eastern Cuba, Jamaica, this is going to be bad. It looks like it's going to be the worst out of those places in Jamaica. They will tend to see the most of the impacts overall. All right, here's how much rain we're forecasting. Yeah, this was Cuba. Well, you get the idea here. Cuba is going to be a lot of rain, but the rain forecasts are astronomical in Jamaica, and for some reason I goofed up and I don't have that graphic. I'll pull it in during the break and I'll show it to you after. But it's anywhere from 20 to 35 inches of rain in some spots. It is not a good situation as far as a storm making landfall. Look at the wind forecast here. As you would imagine, when a hurricane's coming ashore, you're going to have some really strong wind. But this is going to be a persistent tropical storm force wind gust type of situation until we get the center coming ashore. Now, keep in mind, this is just one forecast model. It's clearly showing the center hitting the southwest side of Jamaica, which is still going to put a lot of storm surge into Kingston. And, the entire area that's on the right side of where it's making landfall. You notice on the back side of it, you get offshore flow. So, sometimes you'll actually see the water recede a little bit. I remember seeing scenes like that with Irma in parts of, was that Irma? Was it Tampa Bay? Oh, man, I'm getting all my things. I think it was Irma. I know I saw some water going out during Irma somewhere that people were standing in, and it's usually a bad idea because it can switch around. But 13 feet of storm surge is the official forecast right now in Kingston. If the center ends up wobbling a little bit farther toward the east, I think that number could easily go up. Hurricane Gilbert back in 1988 had 19 feet of storm surge. I can't remember the exact spot on the island that it was, but there are plenty of spots here where you've got a lot of very low-lying areas where it's particularly susceptible to storm surge. So many different angles to cover of this storm, and we're going to be doing it over the next couple of hours, so hang with us.